Hi fam! Welcome! In today's classroom challenge, we're going to be using modified images to help create our own custom die. We have a few new hotkeys and some new menus to learn. The first one being the modifier menu. So with the properties menu open here on the right, I'm going to bring in an object. Right now I have the cube. Change my view, perspective. Now with the cube, I'm going to use modifiers to speed up my workflow. Now I've highlighted 4 that I use on the regular. The first one we're going to demonstrate is the Boolean. So right now I have a modifier Boolean here, and these are the menu items. Right now nothing's going to change because a Boolean actually requires another shape. As it says here, a Boolean is a way of joining shapes or using other shapes to cut objects. So I'm going to get a cylinder, bring it up here, I'm going to put them inside of each other. I'm going to right click the cube again, and you click on this eyedropper on the far right and click the cylinder. Now my cube's disappeared, and it looks like my cylinder's taken on some extra geometry. I'm going to switch into wireframe mode. You see the cylinder has a cut around it. If I switch the operation to union, see now the cube has a circle in it. If I press apply and get out of here and this over, you see that the cylinder actually cut a hole into the cube. So this is kind of the operation we're going to do to our die once we make some custom shapes. Step back in time a bit. The other operator, or the other modifier, is decimate. For that, I'm going to need a lot of geometry. So I'm going to get rid of the cube. I'm going to bring in the cylinder. Oh. Going to decimate. Again, it's not going to look like anything happens. Decimate's a tool that actually removes geometry for you to make it simpler. It does its best to let the geometry keep its shape, but it kind of just like removes vertices as you go along. So with this ratio here, still in object mode with the object selected, I'm going to move the ratio down, and you'll see that the cylinder starts to lose its shape as I change the ratio. I'm going to switch into wireframe so you can see that even better. See how it starts to lose its edges? Now right now it's not terribly helpful right now, but sometime when we import objects like we're going to be doing later, you'll want to remove some of that geometry just to make it simpler to work with. The other modifier is mirror, which does exactly what it sounds like. It can mirror your object. So use a cone, and it'll mirror the object from its origin point. Right now, you can't really see what it's doing because it's mirroring itself right on top of itself. But if I change the axes from X to Z, you can see that now it's no longer a cone. It's this hourglass shape. And again, it's not going to work with Y because this object's already symmetrical. But if I were to, if I do X and Y, and then I go into edit mode, you'll see that I can only select the bottom half because that's the bottom half that exists. But then in object mode, it's duplicating it in the Z axis and in the Y axis. So if I start moving edges around, you'll see it's duplicating my movements on the shape. Just constraining Z, just constraining it, leaving out the X transform. Which can, like the mirror modifier is great to speed up your workflow in that if you know something is going to be symmetrical along these axes, you only have to do sometimes 1/8 of the actual work because the computer can just duplicate the rest. And the last one, solidify. Solidify is great for when you want to like beef up your geometry. I'm going to use something different. I'm going to use text. Right now the text, you can't see it, but if I grow it, there we go. Just the word text. Text is a lot of fun. You can leave yourself notes using the text object. If you press tab, it basically becomes a text editor I can handle. And if I were to apply the solidify modifier to this, and I change the thickness, see that my name almost gets stretched out. It's almost like an extrusion. Now if I believe if I apply a modifier on top of that, it's going to extrude. Oh, wild. See, I don't think, it doesn't really know what to do with the double. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to convert, I'm going to use one of our new hotkeys, the convert to hotkey, Alt-C, because right now, this is like a text, it's a text object, it's not really a mesh, like I can't go into it and edit the vertices or the edges. I can either use Alt-C and it will bring a menu to my mouse that is either convert from mesh to text, or convert to mesh. And I want this mesh one. I'll have to edit that text. I want this mesh one. So I can either do it there with Alt-C, or I can go down here, convert to, it's up here. And now it's a mesh object. Now if I were to apply a solidify, it's actually going to try and stretch it out from all the faces. So now it's just like, so what it does is it figures out what way a face is pointing and kind of just like pushes it out. The tricky thing about this is that it will create geometry inside of the geometry it's creating. So you have to be careful with this. You can end up creating a bit of a mess and create more work for yourself. Those are the modifiers. And you'll also notice on the left the toolbar. You can actually press T to bring those toolbars up. And this is just another place where you can get access to some of the tools, like some of the hotkeys that I've already given you. I bring in an object. I'm going to bring in a mesh. Again, just one more mesh. Do a cube. I'm going to go into object mode. And you'll see as I switch from modes, the toolbar on the left will change depending on what mode I'm using. So if I'm in edit mode, you can see a lot of the things that we've already used. Translate, that's the move, rotate, scale. These are new ones. There's extrude. Knife is here. I guess there's not really the others. There's duplicate. Loop cut's a nice one. And these are great to experiment with, thanks to the power of Control-Z. Don't have to worry about breaking anything too hard. So in the next video, we'll actually do some modeling. Thanks for the visit, fam. See you in the next one. Peace, peace.
冰我